Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Keeping It Together. My name is Bridget White, and I am joined by my three co-hosts. Lindsay, do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
Sure thing. I'm Lindsay Crowshoe, and I'm from the Piikani Nation, one of the Blackfoot tribes in southern Alberta. I'm a family doc and a researcher. My traditional name is IPHCPR, which means prairie owl. I'll pass it over to Adam to introduce himself now.
Thanks, Doc. My name's Adam Murry. I'm of Ukrainian, Irish, and Cherokee Apache descent. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Calgary in the Department of Psychology. I run the Indigenous Organizations and Communities Development Research Lab. And that's all I got to say about that.
My name is Louis Crowshoe. I'm also from Treaty 7 from the Piikani Reserve. My Indigenous name is Ayanaki Puyi, and I am a university student and a co-host on this Keeping It Together podcast.
All right, and my name is Bridget White. I am Métis Cree and Irish, English, and I believe that's it. I'm a research assistant to Lindsay Crowshoe, who you just heard from earlier, and I've been working at the University of Calgary as a researcher for the past probably about a year and a half. I just recently graduated with my undergrad degree at Western University. So I think we're going to start off by introducing our roles in the podcast. So as you know, we're all co-hosts, and Lindsay, you want to kind of talk about why you started this, how you started this, and where the idea came from?
Sure thing. Thanks. My role has got a few roles. I'm one of the co-hosts to help to share and explore and the ways that we are well and could be well, and when faced with adversity in the context of the pandemic, COVID-19. My role is to help to think about the knowledge and talk about the knowledge from a Western physician primary care point of view, and have conversations from a Indigenous point of view at the same time. So my roles are co-host, help to build some knowledge, help to engage in some good conversation, and help to move this out to the community from a researcher level. My other role was to write the proposal, and that proposal was sent to the funding agency that provided this funding. This is the plug for them, was from the Canadian Medical Association Foundation and the Foundation for Advancing Family Medicine, that provided some funding to an organization of family physicians in Canada called the College of Family Physicians of Canada. We were super fortunate to be able to get some funding for this program. And what is the intention? The intention of this podcast from my books is to show that we have great strengths, right? To knowing that we have, as people and as Indigenous peoples, we face adversity, and the stories that we tell, I want to celebrate our strengths, and I want to share those strengths so that we all have a chance to maybe partake in it, shift a narrative of struggling and doing good things and being successful in that. So that's the intention of this podcast, and I think that's why it's important. It's important for us to talk about our strengths.
All right. I wanted to ask someone. I'll ask you, Lindsay. I know we call this podcast Keeping It Together, but we also use the word kit to describe this podcast. Could you tell people a little bit about what is the kit? What does that mean to us? And what are the things we're kind of going to do with this kit that we've created?
Yeah, we thought about the name for our podcast over many conversations, and so we needed something that kind of stuck in people's head. The idea of kit sticks in, I think, in our heads. The idea of what do you put in your kit, whether it's a tool kit or a backpack or lunchbox or things that you can place in there that keep you well, right? What do you take with you that like keeps you well? So and what so the idea of keeping it together is, how do you hold it together, knowing life can be hard and there are many struggles in life, and COVID-19 made some very difficult moments in our lives in very complex ways. What did you do to keep it together? What are the ways that you facilitated that in your life, right? And what are those things that we could share so that other people could say, hey, I want to maybe I should partake in that as well. The idea is put it in your kit. So keeping it together, kit. Those are the connections.
Adam, I wanted to ask you, why do you think this podcast is important?
Bridget, thanks for asking. One time this guy slammed me and I slipped and I caught a knee. I didn't think nothing of it. And then like a week or two later, my knee just like starts swelling up, but not like my bone doesn't hurt or nothing. It's just like starts swelling up, like all ugly, like a giant ugly eyeball. And I would ask everybody. I wasn't one of those people that was like, oh, I'm going to hide my disgusting knee. I would show everyone. I'd be like, hey, man, look at my knee. What do you think to do? And I told my buddy Mauro, I told him, I go, hey, man, will you smell my knee? It smells horrible. And he goes, nah, man, I ain't smelling your knee. I go, please. I go, it smells weird. I go, there's something wrong with it. And he goes, nah, man, it's smelling your knee. So then I went around and I told other people, and a couple of people were like, let me smell it. Ah, yeah, man, it's not good. And I'm like, oh. And then it ended up, I had an abscess, I guess. And then after it split, like it just kind of drained and then it healed up, But I had a lot of anxiety. I was stressed out. I didn't know what to do about that knee thing. It was, disgusting and weird, and having people to talk to helped, like that helps you keep it together, I guess. And so during COVID, we didn't get to have those kinds of talks, and that's why I think that this thing is important.
There's another point that this is I think important to bring up, and that's the idea of the things that people do to be well. They're legitimate, right? The idea of social prescribing was kind of like what I saw was kind of key to this type of podcast. The idea that if bringing it back to the role of family physicians and this podcast, is that there's a lot of things that keep us well, and often, in our practice, we don't even recognize it, but we often do tap into it, but we don't realize it ourselves, that how powerful these interventions could be, right? The idea of going to the park for an hour, right? That's like we actually have research that shows that if you send people with mental depression or ADHD to go to a park for an hour, their scores are way better and they are more well, and that's totally free. So this idea of what can you prescribe as a physician to help support people to be well, are those things that people can do together, or those things that they can do in the outdoors, or things that they can do with music or art or culture or whatever. These are the things that we all can access. You don't have to go to the doctor to do this, but if you do, these are things that could really complement your wellness. So the idea of this podcast is let's explore those things that we all could do to be well, that you don't have to see a doctor. But like I say, if you do, these are great things that you can engage and be supported in. There are whole research agendas on social prescribing. There's whole programs of supporting it that's emerging in Canada, but also all over the world, because it's a powerful thing. The things that we could do in together and in the wilderness or in shared spaces, things that we do culturally, those are all very powerful things that bring wellness to our lives. And that's what this podcast is about. It's to help to support that. Social prescribing is the concept.
So this podcast, I think its importance comes from identifying people's strengths and the good things that people were able to do, the good things that came out of the pandemic, because it's not all necessarily bad, and there are ways that you can get through those tough times. And I think that things like we explore in this podcast may work for one person, may not work for another person, but it's interesting to dive into each of these experiences and share that with other people, because it might give some people an idea to go and explore something that they've never explored before. And there's no harm in that at all. I think it all is, for the greater good. It's all for sharing our knowledge. It's I don't know, it's just helpful to hear other people's experiences and share that. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, this is Keeping It Together. You can say goodbye to all of my co-hosts, Adam, Lindsay, Lewis. Thank you guys for joining me. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, everyone.